What is going on, everyone? I am 30 seconds behind. I apologize. Good to see everybody over here in chat. Hello to all the chatters over here. Oh, now you hush up there on that monitor. Thank you. All right. Let's see what's happening. Knotted Pumpkin, that's a new name. Nice to meet you and welcome aboard. Sunny afternoon in the UK. Glad to hear it. Top of the afternoon to you. Redfish, Bluefish, Chevy Fish, Jessica Taylor, and brother Daryl Deemer, hardworking mod. Thank you for being here, Daryl. I appreciate all you do for us. And you other guys, man, beautiful people. Some of the best fish keeping experiences come from the chat, so you guys feel free to entertain yourselves over there. If you notice the thumbnail, I'm going to be railing about some guppy foods. I've got a video coming out on Wednesday where I'm actually going to reveal the names of the foods. I'm going to show you how the guppies respond to the food. In this live stream, I'm not going to spoil the names of the food. We're going to talk about the food, some of their properties. We're going to talk about guppies in general, my guppies, these guppies that I have now. They have a story. We're going to talk about that. So I want to fake name dropping in. Thanks, Loopy Laura. Good to see you, Lori Vinker. Hello. We're going to talk about. Well, it's a cool story. These guppies that I have, it's a cool story. I want to hear your feeding ideas for guppies. Other fish are okay, but I'm particularly interested in what you're feeding your guppies, how you're feeding them, when you're feeding them, how often you're feeding them. I know the way that I have mine kept, I've got the males in a community tank. I've got the females in a species tank. There's a couple of loaches helping break things down on the bottom a little bit, but they're voracious. I mean, different. I don't know if it's because of the tank composition or the gender of the guppies, but definitely the males and the females guppies I have respond differently to food at feeding time. But they're both voracious and very active, very healthy right now. So it's going to be a good video. It's going to be fun to watch if you like watching those beautiful little fish just kind of go into their little feeding frenzy. It's going to be feeding frenzy after feeding frenzy in the Wednesday video. We're going to premiere that so we can hang out a few minutes for its first viewing. That's going to be Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time right here on the River Life YouTube channel. I'm glancing back and forth at chat, but I'm trying to stay in touch with you guys as well. So if I miss your comment and you want it addressed during the stream, make sure you put that at River Life signature in there so it catches my eye. And usually, it's very rare that I don't go back and watch the stream again just so I can read all the chat and check the comments below the description if you had a question that didn't get answered in the stream. As a rule, I always answer the questions from the comments below. I'm framing myself up. Should have done that before the show started. I answer the questions in the comments below the description. So you're not going to be left out. I'm not overlooking you on purpose. Doing a live stream by yourself, keeping up with the chat and all the technology, it's much like chewing gum and walking at the same time for some of us. So that's where we are. Janine the Fish Herd is here. Thank you very much for stopping by. And we're going to get into this. Let's see. Fake name says first bites 4 times a day. I guess that's for the fry. And the adults get crushed flakes, micro pellets, or crushed vibra bites. That's what he feeds. Okay, and we all, listen, if your fish are healthy and they're getting fed on the reg, I'm not a food Nazi, that's for sure. If your fish like it and it fits into your routine so everyone's happy, that's the way you should do it. So I'm not promoting change with this upcoming video, my top 5 guppy foods. This is what I'm doing, and my fish love it. They're doing really well. And it's varied. I don't know how important it is. Look out the retriever coming into the studio to say good morning to everybody. I don't really know how important it is to have a varied diet if you found a really good food that is a complete food, so to speak. That said, I feed a varied diet. I enjoy it. I enjoy feeding a varied diet, getting involved in understanding different types of foods. It's a conversation, obviously, that we can have with each other at several different levels, in the chat, on a live stream, at a premiere on a video, at a fish convention, on Facebook groups, private messages. It's a nice piece of our hobby that we can share and look for tips, especially when you get into feeding live foods, different techniques of raising live food. It's pretty fascinating. It takes you into kind of a para hobby, live food. You good, bro? Look out, sounding off just prior to nap over there. Okay. Hey, Dragonliar. Thanks for dropping in. Morgan Wood, how's it going? Glad you're listening. So when I say I enjoy feeding a different diet, so, you've got some foods that float on the surface. That's great to see the fish swim up and feed off of the top. I also keep koi. I love that about koi. It's almost like you're at their dinner table and you're part of the conversation, all the noise with the food being eaten off the surface. And then you got your slow sinking pellets, and you can watch the fish kind of dive bomb as the pellet sinks. That's pretty cool. And then you've got a wafer or something that sinks very quickly, and then you see the fish, and then a completely different orientation with the tail up, feeding off the bottom. So, I feed all types of that, I guess, floating, sinking, and several different types of buoyant pellets. So, and I don't usually do it because of for the guppies, because that's not the decision maker, is how the food's going to react in water. I choose the food primarily because of its ingredients. If I want guppies, I want some color. If it's a color enhancing food, great. If it's something that they tend to eat and don't have a lot of waste after they've eaten, fantastic. So very functional priorities first, and then just as a bonus, however the food reacts in the water column, I pay attention to and enjoy. I'm trying to get some close-up footage of these guppies feeding, and it's been a daunting task because they do that frenzy thing, and so they don't line up for you two-dimensionally. They kind of swarm, and the camera has to have a second to focus. So there's always a fish movement that's causing a different foreground that causes the camera not to be able to focus. By the time it focuses on the fish, it's focusing on where the fish was. It is way over here, the camera's focused. You know what I'm saying. But it's been fun. So whenever you try to do a detailed project like that, definitely brings you closer to your fish. And it's an enjoyable time with the fish, whether or not you're capturing the photography or videography that you're aiming for. I'm going to open a can of water. Stand by. So I'm glad you guys are here. Got 20 watching now. I can't see the likes. If you haven't hit the like button yet, I really would appreciate if you do that. It's supposed to help with the algorithm, the promotion of the video after this uploads, but really it just makes me feel good. So I appreciate it when you hit that like button. Thank you very much in advance. We have got King and Queen Cichlids in the house with a big hello. And Scott at King and Queen Cichlids is taking a me day. Scott, I love you, brother. I know you're working so hard over there. You're taking care of your beautiful cichlid queen over there, and she's a little under the weather and needs your assistance. And you've just been running up and down the stairs taking care of her, and you need a me day. You live streamed yesterday. You got video production underway. Brother, take it easy. I'm glad to be a part of your day. Thanks. 23 likes. See? And my brother Scott there, he knows how important those likes are. That's the positive feedback, the energy that the viewer provides the creator that just makes this a beautiful relationship. So thank you very much for the 23 likes, 25 watching. You guys are absolutely fantastic. While I'm talking about how fantastic you guys are, let me tell you, we're doing another time slot takeover on Thursday night. The River Life Community Tank Live does a live stream for an hour every Thursday night from 10:30 to 11:30 Eastern. And for the last several weeks, we've allowed different creators to come in and take over that time slot so I can introduce these people that I'm working with, that I trust, that I think you will find some value by spending some time with them. I'm allowing them to take over the time slot. So we've got another one of those coming up. I'm interrupted by a bright orange super chat from King and Queen Cichlids for $20. And he says, love you right back. Enough said. Amen. Enough said. Thank you so much for your super chat, Scott. You didn't have to do that. That's pretty cool. But when I am able to give a super chat, it makes me feel good. So I know that made you feel good, and I really appreciate it. And just passing along the love like that, you know, it's an energy all of its own. If Scott and I had the same $20 bill and we just passed it back and forth to each other like ping pong, we'd enjoy it. It would just make our hearts swell. So the money is great, don't get me wrong, but just that feeling of having a community you can share with that's the thing for me. Lumpy Dog. Yeah, Lumpy Dog hollering at Scott there. That's cool. Welcome to the show. I just say show because it's easier to say than live stream. People doing community things in the chat, that's great. All right, where was I before Scott interrupted me with his King and Queen Cichlid $20 super chat? That's awesome. Time slot takeover, Thursday night, our regular time. I'm not going to be here. The crowd's going to gather, but it's going to be Q Aquatics and Exotics, a YouTube channel that I've worked with for several years. I've met Susie several times, just a delightful person, so engaged, so passionate about the fish hobby and other pets. I hope you guys will show up and support Susie and basically, I can already promise you a good time. She's going to talk about some things that are going to be entertaining. If you don't follow her, it's going to be like a revelation. Like, wow, where does she get this energy? How does she have the time to take care of all of those animals? And you can tell the love of taking care of those animals that just flows out of her. And she claims to be a beginning aquarist. Well, she's going to have to lose that pretty soon because she is dedicated to learning. I'm a lifelong learner. Please know it's okay to learn, no matter how old you are. Lumpy Dog says my beard is looking tight. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I had to give it a quarantine trim. Can't get to my barber, locked out from my barber. So that's meaningful that you said that, Lumpy Dog. Susie Q, beautiful person, great content, working on improving her content. I'm in a work group with her, and she's asking all these questions about how she can improve her product for the viewer, the YouTube video, and she's making positive changes. So I'm really in support of the Susie Q Aquatics and Exotics taking over the time slot Thursday. I'm going to drop in the chat, but I don't hang around a lot. It's not like I'm having a guest. The thing that we're doing is a time slot takeover because what I discovered by accident is we've invested quite a lot in the infrastructure of building this brand, this channel on the YouTube platform. And I certainly benefited from that time slot because it follows KG Tropical's live stream, which follows Aquarium Co-op live stream. So there's a handoff there, and we get some crossover people that helps every channel. So Susie Q Aquatics has her brand, and many of you already know her, some of you don't. And she has people in her regular support group that don't know us river life people. So yeah, there's some overlap, but we're gonna, kind of expand our communities by inviting them into this time slot. She may invite me to take over her time slot. It's not a trade. It's this equity that we've built by investing in our brands and kind of, staking a claim. Well, I'm going to be here at this time on this day, and if you want to join. So it's become kind of a routine. So the benefit that I got from getting into that lineup had, it built itself. Then it kind of plateaued, like, okay, this is us, and that's great. That is fantastic. But when these other YouTubers that I'm working with and I trust and I'm recommending to you, when they do this just once, one of time slot takeover with all of this, these new people, they notice a spike, a little bump in their channel in views and subscribers. And then people start picking up on their content and views on their other videos go up. So we've just found out, hey, here's some hidden energy. Unlike a guest where, there's just kind of a conversation, which is cool. Nothing wrong with that. We just have found that the time slot takeover, you do it from your studio, you do your show the way you do it. It's a more natural delivery of what you want to talk about just from in another time slot. It's worked out so well. Last week, you guys were especially kind to the fish tank barn. Mike Howe, who is a breeder of live bearers, both egg layers, live bears, freshwater and saltwater, and the freshwater fish he's bred include egg layers and live bearers. He's also bred saltwater fish. So, interesting guy, has lots to talk about, and you guys were so kind to him in the time slot takeover. Thank you very much for that. The week before that, it was Aquafunk Aquatics. And again, you guys were so kind. It was a breath of fresh air. Aquafunk brings an energy that is different than ours. And he's like a ball of fire, okay? I'm like a rocking chair. So it was kind of a polar personality in that way, but you guys, you loved it. You're so kind. Aquafunk Aquatics got a bump in his channel. And now we go away. I'm still saying good things about these people that have taken over the time slot. And guess what? They're saying good things about us in their regular time slot. It's a beautiful piece of community work. We stumbled on it kind of by mistake. It just happened. One night I wasn't going to be able to be on air. And Multi-Tank Addiction, who follows the River Life Community Tank Live normally from 11:30 Eastern to 12:30 Eastern, he just bumped his show up and did basically 2 shows. So he did my hour and his hour, and found out that when he was doing my hour, he got the normal number of people that we get, and being a larger channel, it was a larger number for him. He got a little bump, and I thought, I bet that's not an accident. So I started the time slot takeover. We're continuing it. Susie of Q Aquatics will be with us. No, that's not right. She'll be taking our time slot on Thursday, and I hope you guys will check that out. And then we're gonna keep rolling like this. I think it's a unique time. Well, it is a unique time in the world right now, but there's also, that brings opportunities. So I'm now doing these live streams on Monday and Friday morning, and lining up something for Thursday. So we get more time together, 2 hours a week instead of 1. And we're then supporting our Thursday night time slot with someone else doing the time slot takeover. And it's a little more community time. Schedules are definitely altered for most of us. And so this is just where we are right now. And I'm trying to bring order to the chaos as quickly as possible with the Monday and Friday for several weeks now. Time slot takeover several weeks, trying to make that the new normal. And you guys are coming right along. Thank you so much for that. Bruce Leroy, hello. Good to see you. Did I hear Science Gal? Yeah, there you are. Hey, Carrie. Okay, so I got all of that going on, and it's just making this community knot tighter. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys for supporting each other, helping each other, help each other, as we say. And so I'm also trying to improve my video content, learning from the group. We all participate, and it's very unique. We're we're a group of nice people doing the same thing. We recognize we're putting ourselves out there every week, and we're a little shy about the harsh critique, and very diplomatic. It's cute to watch. And King and Queen Cichlids is here, the absolute best at the velvet glove critique. Scott will tell me, and I want you to take this the way that it's intended, and that's to be a help. And I'm not. It's so lovely. It's like, okay, all right, let me. Oh, okay, here it comes. All right. Okay, I'm good. Go ahead, brother. Let me have it. And then it'll just be this piece of information that is so spot on. And it's like KG Tropicals tells all of us, it's just good to have another set of eyes look at something. And so we're very kind to one another, and we love each other this way. It's like a critique sandwich. Here's the compliments. I liked 27 things about this video, and here's one little thing maybe you could improve on. But man, I did like that video. I've shared it. I left you a like. I left a comment. And it's kind of cool to be involved in a community that considers not just the widget, but the emotion. When you're doing I know the hours, the number of clicks it takes to make a video. And sometimes you don't want to hear a list of 15 bad things about your video. So that's the kind of group that we're in. That's the way we're rolling. It's working out. We're growing. We're getting better. We're sharing tips, seeing immediate results. This group, there's more views, better videos, better audience retention, just basically because we're doing more work. We love each other. We love hanging out, but you got to show up. You got to participate. You got to do the exercises, and everyone's doing it. So all that to say, my last video, we did last Wednesday, amazing fish tour. It was one of those rockets. Thank you guys. I want to say thanks to all the people that watched and shared that video. Hit the like button. If you haven't, please watch last week's video, amazing fish store tour. Over 1,100 views now. That does not happen often on the River Life YouTube channel. We're 3,300 subscribers, and maybe 1 out of 10 or 15 videos gets over 1,000 views. And usually if that does happen, it does happen kind of quickly. There are a few that I say matured well. They eventually accumulated 1,000 views, but to get one in the first week to have 1,000 views, it was really good. I mean, that's you guys doing your thing, doing your part. I appreciate it very much. So if you haven't watched that video, please do. Feel free to share it. And so I've got to take some cues and some clues from that response. Okay, what did you like in that video? How can I do the next one in a way that you'll like it? Because I have an artistic, creative vision, but in the end, on the YouTube platform, I am concerned how the content is received. And the only way I have of knowing how the content was received is by the number of views, the number of likes, and the comments. So all of those actually matter. It's not a robotic, like, share, subscribe. Those things matter. And subscribers, of course, also always. That's the big number that everybody looks at. But I mean, for the longest time on last week's video, the subscribers were negative. And I don't think they were clicking into that video and then unsubscribing. I think there's a constant ebb and flow of subscribers on every channel. It's positive now, by the way. It's a positive number of subscribers. But with those views going so quickly, even when that number was negative, it was like, okay, the subscriber in this analytic isn't what we're looking at. We're looking at views and duration. I saw Zen Ginger's in the house. She's posted the amazing aquarium store tour link. Thank you so much for doing that, the Zen Ginger. I appreciate you being here. Listen, that I want you to watch that thing. I think you'll enjoy it. There's a benefit for me. I get a view, but I think you'll enjoy it. Because if you listen, I guess it was, there's a link. There's a link in the video. I did a live stream like this and talked about that fish store. It took me back to my childhood. It was so well laid out. So the thumbnail for Wednesday's video, we're talking about the top 5 guppy foods, is a fish that was in the guppy tank from that store. So probably, I cut it out and edited it, but if you go back and watch the video, you can look for that particular male guppy in the guppy tank, and you may be able to identify him. Stunner. Oh my gosh, good looking. It was a great store. Part of the reason I'm doing this video is because Riverwife, I mean the whole store, we were just all over the place, spent the majority of her time in front of that guppy tank, just mesmerized by these guppies, and started taking pictures and filming and noticing the differences. And they look like they're all kind of the same until you look at them. Oh no, radically different. That's the kind of experience just drew her right in and held her. And I had that experience all over the store. All of my worries went away, and right back to my childhood, the wonderment. It was just the permagrin, just tank to tank, Lucy in the sky with diamonds. Diamonds for fish in these beautiful display tanks. I hope you'll watch it and enjoy it the way that I did. I think that video is doing so well because my excitement and enjoyment, I was able to allow it to come across through the magic of video. I hope that's the case. Seems like it is. And that's really encouraging to know if I can just, find that positive energy about whatever subject it is, and then take that energy to the editing room. Maybe I'm getting better at making that come across. That said, filming these guppies eating, very much the same. They weren't new guppies. They weren't guppies I was unfamiliar with. I'm going to tell you the story about these guppies we're feeding right now. But my goodness. Okay, I need a video. I've got to get some content. And before I know it, well, why am I not filming this? I'm distracted by watching my fish eat. Now, come on, back to work. You got to get some footage here. But it's just, anytime I can get lost in a fish tank, just let it do that, drawing me in, that's a good time. And I wish it could happen more often. But when it does, well, I appreciate it. I'm going to capture it in this sense for the guppy feeding and try and share that with you. So these guppies that I have, I call them mutt guppies. They're not actually mutt guppies. They're mutt guppies because they're together. So the story is, every guppy that I have was born in my tank, raised in my tank, and lives in my fish room. Now, none of the parents are still with me. There's just a bad run on guppies when I decided to get back into guppies. How long can you be without guppies? I don't know. I thought, done all the live all the cool stuff, always had guppies and endlers. I guess it's time to move on to something else. So I did. And then before I knew it, it was like, why don't I have guppies? Guppies have always, guppy was the fish. I was 4 years old. My earliest childhood memory of an animal is a guppy. My mom kept a 2-gallon guppy bowl. That was my intro to fish keeping, and have never abandoned it. And I'm old now. That's been a long time. But we had, back then they were sold as the rainbow guppies. Now they're sold as a wild or feeder guppy. But that was our not only primary fish, it was our only fish. We had a species fish bowl and started out, with a few. And by the time I remember my mom taking out the pregnant females, putting them in a jar and counting the fry as they were born, saving the fry. And after just a couple of days, she put the fry back in the fish bowl. So the fish bowl got overpopulated and eventually became a 10-gallon aquarium. Okay, story for another time. That was my introduction to guppies. So they were the gateway fish. Guess I've never gotten over them. I thought I hadn't. So I'm at the PetSmart one day. It was maybe Thanksgiving-ish. They had some Dumbo mosaics. Okay, guess those things have populated enough that now the big boxes have them. Let me get a couple of those. And you got any big females? I'm going to try a breeding project. Oh man, all your females are big. Let me get some of those. So I come home with some bags of fish, maybe two males and 5 or 6 females. So I've got the quarantine tank set up, and boy, was that a good move. Always consider a quarantine tank. 38 of you watching here, by the way. It's 12:01. We just crossed the halfway mark. I'm telling the story of my guppies. I get home with the bag of guppies, put them in the quarantine tank, and I have never seen a more rapid occurrence of ick. And I thought, okay, all right, well, that's okay. Because we're here at quarantine, I'm going to do a couple meds at the same time, including the ick X. I'll do something for internal parasites and exterior bacteria problems. You know, the typical, however you do your quarantine. So I go back to the store. A couple of days later, I've got one that didn't make it. And so it's got a warranty on it. And I look, and their tank, it's a universal system covered with ick. And they're like, we cannot believe that shipment came in and infected our tank. I said, yeah, I got home. I kind of noticed. So they got on it right away, treating their whole system. And so I said, well, I want to go ahead and get another fish because my fish already have, I guess, this ick that's going around here in your tank. And I've got them in a quarantine tank with medication, so I can go ahead and I said, okay, that'll be fine. Well, so I get home with it was new female fish, and noticed there were fry in the bottom of the quarantine tank. And I mean, I was like, wow, that happened in a hurry. And there's like 6 or 7. So I started catching the fry. Okay, fry born in the quarantine tank. And then I noticed more fry, and then more dead fish and more dead fish. So the fish weren't recovering with the meds that I was using. I don't think it was the meds' fault. That I've used that for a lot of different fish. Now, I don't know what was going on, but I wondered if the fry were going to be okay. So eventually, I lost all the adult fish. I lost interest in going and trading any more fish to get dead fish. Just let this thing pass. Let it work itself out. I'm not healing these fish. I had a couple of males that made it through and out of quarantine to die within the next 2 weeks. So I don't even know how many fish I took back and traded, but the fry accumulated to about 3 dozen. So I had 3 dozen fry while the adults were still living. I took one of those, the little hang-on net cage, for a little breeder box, and I was putting the fry in there, and I had a live plant in there, some java moss, and a little sprig of guppy grass, and got some fry food. I was bringing them up. They were doing fine. I mean, 3 dozen in a little 6x9 square. You look down and see your little minnow fry, what it looked like. And so they kept growing, kept doing okay, and eventually I just left them in the quarantine tank and didn't take any of the meds out except for water changes starting a week after. 10-gallon tank. Yeah, a week after introduction, I started doing 10% water changes. And I left the meds in there. So then I started doing the water changes. The fry started, and I left them, even though it was 10-gallon, I left them in that little breeding netted thing so that they could, so I could watch them and they make sure they were getting enough to eat, not getting themselves hurt in aquarium equipment or sucked up by, a snail or something. So they all grew out. Every fry grew out. I mean, and they are healthy and happy and big right now. So that was a few months ago, and the females are just vibrant with color and full with size. Probably, I'm going to say 2 dozen females, 1 dozen males. And the males, I call them mutt guppies, but the males, you can definitely see the line they came from. And I don't know if you're familiar with the PetSmart guppy scheme or not, but they have the males and the females separated, and the males are labeled as to which, I don't know, common name brand they are. So these guppies that became male, you can definitely tell. These are the ones that PetSmart sell as, I guess they get their most of their stuff from Seagrass, and they have a tequila sunrise guppy. They had the mosaic Dumbo ear, which I have one. I've got this male guppy that has like kind of dark pectoral fins, but they're translucent, and he has a iridescent yellow side and a yellow tail, so he's like a Dumbo. Reaching for something under the monitor. He's like a Dumbo tequila sunrise. It's kind of cool. So he had that lineage there is kind of weird, and others are just that they have larger tails and smaller tails, shorter tails and longer tails, and I'm sure they're quasi purebred. But I'm keeping them all together, not trying to make a new line, not trying to define a line, but I do have some breeding projects coming up. So I wanted to know with the guppies, that's going to end up being content. So all of that said to say, we're doing a video on the 5 top guppy foods because I'm going to be figuring out what's the best food for the breeding projects. And one of the things that's a consideration is its consumability. Which food, when I feed, produces more waste, which is more consumed. And a lot of the fish food brands are talking about, bragging about, less and less waste in the tank, which, if that's true, that's a beautiful thing. That is wonderful for water quality. Hey, John Larson, good to see you. Thanks for dropping in. I'm just yapping about my guppies. We're going to be, Fishy Fun's got to take a break to go feed the guppies. I understand. Let's see. We got 32 watching now. We got some likes. I appreciate that, you guys. So the fish foods. I needed to know which was the best food to go forward with the breeding project for the guppies. And which, by the way, is going to be fun. It's going to be a fun thing. I have ordered some tiny micron fry food. I'm going to try a egg layer breeding project in the meantime, but I skipped ahead to figure out which was the best food for these guppies, and I said, hey, that's got enough appeal that people might enjoy my top 5 guppy foods. And I've got one that's a dead ringer favorite, and I don't care what anybody says. I just discovered this food and I love it, and I'm going to be feeding it. I feed it to all of my small fish. I love this food. But it's marketed at guppies. So that's how I discovered it. And I'm so glad that I did. For several reasons that I'll disclose in the video. And there's one food that was kind of a surprise. Actually, it's marketed to bettas. But the reason I feed it to my guppies is because of the there's a word and I can't find it, but the food is unadulterated, okay? It's changed from its natural state, but it's not ground up in a cereal and added with a bunch of other stuff. Okay, so there's a clue. None of the foods are frozen. They're all dry foods. Think they're intended to be over the counter. The one or the two may be new enough that they're not readily available, but you can definitely find them. One of the foods, here's a spoiler. If you don't want to know what one of the foods is before Wednesday, turn your volume down. I'll give you 3, 2, 1. Extreme. Okay, you can turn your volume back up now. So, I feed that food because of the ingredients. You read the ingredient list on that food, and it's like, oh yeah, that'd probably work. And the track record. Do yourself a favor. I'm not going to go into it here. Gosh, I'll just tell you the whole video. But check out the history, I guess. Yeah, how that food came to be. And the track record is pretty amazing. Okay, you got to say to yourself that if they are feeding that food here and getting this result, it's going to be just fine in my aquarium. And I find that to be the case, and so do other YouTube creators. So and this is, you know, part of our community. That's one of the foods that I got as a free sample when you go to the Aquashella or Aquatic Experience. You come home with a bag full of food samples. It's pretty cool. And I love the sample. So you can, it's a little cellophane bag. You can just, I don't have one on my messy desk. Oh, but yes, I do. Here's what I'm talking about. This is not in the video, so it's not a spoiler. But see, it's just a little plastic sample pack. So you don't have to buy a $7, $8 jar of the food to find out if you're going to like it or not. Okay, do you see that? It said micro wafer. I thought that a wafer was larger, you know, like something that would sink to the bottom for your pleco, you know, those spirulina flakes or something. This is, I'm wearing glasses and I'm using a magnifying glass. That's right. This is tiny, tiny print. Not for human consumption, by the way. This is for color, form, reduced waste. Okay, so they're making all the promises. It's Hikari. But I talked to the Hikari rep recently, and I learned something. He says the wafer describes that it sinks. It's not so much the shape or the size, just that it sinks. And pellets can have variable buoyancy. They can float, sink slowly, or sink. And then your flakes and other food float. So Hikari makes a couple of foods that they're tiny, but they also encapsulate a very tiny bubble of air, so they float. However, they figured out how to do that process. So lots of interesting things that the food industry is interested in. I'm just interested in how my fish react and how I can enjoy it. I will say this, rule number one, the fish have to like it. It is not going to be my favorite food or even one that I feed for very long if the fish aren't excited about it. If I put some food in a tank and the fish go sniff it and turn away and don't get excited about it, it's not going back in that tank. Okay, see how I said that? Because if I try it in the other tank, those fish may go crazy over it. So different fish do like different feeds. Kind of like humans, I get that. All right, see, now Redfish Bluefish has said, hey, let's make it a party. Let's get the tetratropical flakes for the win and shame the granules. So I don't get hung up on that. If you do, that's cool. I mean, the reason you would do that is because you love your fish and you want to pick a best food and let everybody know that your fish get the best food. So I've tried to be non-militant in this upcoming video about my 5 top guppy foods, in that these are the ones I like. Here's why I like them. If, like every other video, if there's something you like here, please use it. I'm just putting it on your option, your buffet of options. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not trying to change you. Just putting the information out there. If you like it and can use it and get some enjoyment out of it, it's there for you. If you don't like it, as always, please don't spit on it. It may be what the next guy's looking for. It's the community wisdom from the Community Tank Live this morning. Monday afternoon now, 12:15. We started at 11:30 a.m. We're well into the afternoon now here, beautiful downtown Mountain Home, Tennessee. Thanks for dropping in. We've got 32 of you watching now. I can't see the number of likes. Sean OOTD is here, and he's talking about having some difficulties. I guess choosy fish, just like I was saying, some fish will eat it, some fish won't. KG Tropicals talks often about converting fish, large predator fish, from live foods to pellet foods, and basically it's just a hunger drive. And once they try the pellet food and understand, oh, that's food. Yeah, give me some more of that. So, speaking of, a right turn quickly here, and I should have said something when I saw Scott from King and Queen Cichlids here. Oh, bug bites. Science gal. I'm going to get back to that. Scott, his passion for large predator cichlids is contagious. I have never had the urge to do that until I started watching Scott. Let me say that differently. Rewatching some of Scott and Liz's videos from their beautiful award-winning fish. And just enjoying. I think the first time I watch, I'm not a casual observer on King and Queen Cichlids. I'm looking for technique, for playability, listenability, and then the content itself is actually tertiary, because that's the way creators are. Okay, we don't go to the movies to sit down with our popcorn because we're crazy like that. We should. But after I've already got those boxes checked, and then I can go back and watch as a casual observer, it's like, my gosh, those fish are beautiful. They are amazing. They're personable. And how have I done without them? So, oh man, why do we feel guilty when we start talking about a new tank? We know that there's always going to be a new tank. I don't know. Yeah, there's going to be a new tank. Not going to be the monster tank. Not going to take the place of a monster tank. Figuring out some things. Spring has sprung. Fish studio coming along. Changes. They're not scheduled yet, but we're closer to getting things going structurally. That thing's going to change right now. We've got the beautiful 75-gallon goldfish tank in there with the Aponogetans, the African plants. It's beautiful. A couple of the leaves are taking a beating. They're big goldfish, and they're known to destroy plants. Basically, the biggest problem is I've got them in beautiful Asian bowls as a planter, and the goldfish are just chewing on the gravel and spitting it out of the bowl. It's like their job. That's what they do. They take gravel out of the bowl. So I had these beautiful granite pieces of tile that the bowl sat on. Now you can't, it's like they're buried in the substrate where the goldfish just do their job. They take the gravel out of the bowl. It's cool. But they're leaving the plants alone, and the plants have bloomed. So I've been talking to Bentley Pasco about, he says it's a tough plant. He said, what you've got to do is they won't self-pollinate. You got to manually pollinate them. So I've been through that. I got some, oh, by the way, Redfish Bluefish says he's not shaming. He's just having fun. And I said that as a joke, Redfish Bluefish. I already understood that you were just joking. That's totally cool. Yeah, I should have laughed more, so you knew I was just playing along with the joke. No worries, bro. So he tells me, Bentley says you got to manually pollinate these things because they won't self-pollinate. Well, how do you do that? Well, you take an acrylic brush and you just brush the flowers, and then you move the brush to the other flower. Okay, well, I've never done that, bro. So I took a little video. Probably will include it in some uploaded content sooner or later. I said, Bentley, any chance I did this right? And he said, looks about right. So maybe I'll get some seeds. And if I do, then I'll plant the seeds and see if we can grow some of our own Aponogetans. I got the bulbs from Aquarium Co-op, by the way. He usually keeps a couple of different species of those. And man, every bulb that I got bloomed quickly, sprouted. And they're doing great. I have some in another tank that have also grown, and well, the male guppy tank, they've grown and bloomed as well. And that tank doesn't have substrate. I just took one of the lead weights and wrapped it around the base of the bulb to get it lower in the water column. It's growing like crazy without any substrate, and it has bloomed. So I'm going to try to get some seeds and grow my own Aponogeton. And so Bentley's working on this Master Aquatics Horticulture online course. It's a thing in his club, and he's a master 8 or 12 times over, 15, because he loves plants. He's expressing his passion. What I love about Bentley is he's trying to bring his passion and success to the community. he's working out a way we can participate remotely if we don't have a club that can sponsor a program like that. So I've been talking with him because, these plants, they could take a nosedive, after they bloom this time. They may never again after I get involved in this program. Can I document this and claim it? He said, yeah, it's kind of it's an honor system. And if it's online and you're not able to bring your plants to the club meeting, it's going to have to be photographs and video. So I took a River Life sticker. You guys have seen those. I tell you what, I straightened out my desk and I can't find anything. I got one on my water bottle that's upside down just for you guys. So I took a River Life sticker and stuck it under the rim of the tank in front of the bloom so that, just add a layer of legitimacy. Yep, this is my tank. This is the bloom. This is my acrylic brush. I'm brushing the flowers. We're going to try to get some seeds here. So I'm thinking ahead, trying to put some points in the bank toward that certification. I think that is awesome. Education of any kind, if you want it and you've got the time and can spare the expense to get it, it probably will benefit you somehow. I'm pro education. Love it. You guys are agreeing with me in the chat that Bentley is great. Yeah, I know. You got to be careful of those feelings in the fish fam, redfish, bluefish. Thank you very much. Just as I spoke about Scott and I being so kind to each other when we critique our videos, you're spot on. We are in agreement. And Science Scout mentioned earlier about feeding the bug bites. I have about 6 different kinds of bug bites because I love them. And when I started feeding the first, I think it's just the tropical, the regular standard one to my community tank, and they went nuts over it. So I fell in love quickly with the bug bites because my fish did. Easy to feed. It's a slow sinking, hard little rough edged granule from the fly larva. Is it a black soldier fly? Anyway, my fish are crazy about it. Very high nutrition, very good for the environment. It's sustainably made. So I'm a fan. Now, you may or may not see bug bites in the top 5 guppy foods. That doesn't mean they're not great and I don't love them. But it might mean I've found something that fills that void, maybe another food. Yeah, or a few. So, I'm glad you said that, and that's why I wanted to mention it, Carrie, the Science Gal Aquatics. If you guys haven't checked out her channel, you need to do that. She's also one that travels to the major fish conventions and has wonderful content. Yeah, it's not going to be there. And, okay, having said that, I've still got a final edit day, and I might put it in there just for this reason. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not dissing them. I'm not overlooking them. I love them. If you look back through my content deeply enough, you'll find I do love it, and I do show you I love it and how my fish love it. Just went a different direction on this top 5 guppy foods. So hopefully that adds a little intrigue for you. Oh my gosh, if he's not even feeding bug bites, what the heck? Yeah, that's what I want. I want to drum up some suspense so you'll come check out the premiere Wednesday morning at 11:30. Which, by the way, gives you Western people time to get in there too. It wasn't 9:30. It's going to be 9:30 in Seattle if it's 11:30 here. The Zen Ginger says, even the mud skippers eat tropical bug bites. It's great food. If you're keeping fish, let me just say it this way. I recommend that you try the bug bites. See how you do with them. And even though they currently are not scheduled to appear in my video, Top 5 Guppy Foods, it's a great food. And by the way, I did tell you that the fish in the thumbnail is not my fish, right? So you won't see that in my tank. You won't see that fish. But I did film that fish at Something Fishy, and you can find it in the tank from last Wednesday's video. That was a great video. Wow, 1,100 views. I can't believe it. Thank you guys. Even herbivore fish love bugs. Yeah, it's kind of natural. It's like that earthworm flake. I burned. I got one bag of that. I think it came in a my aquarium box one month. I burned through that because every tank in the house ate it. They love that earthworm flake. Aqua balls. What is going on? Did I see Oddball Aquatics too, or was it just aqua balls? I'm scrolling through the chat now. I've missed so much. Woo. Okay, so I'm getting some great feedback on the bug bites. What else are you guys feeding? The Zen Ginger wants to know if I use the goldfish bug bites. I do. Yep, and the koi get some of those too. They love them. The problem with the goldfish is it's not a staple. I mix it in with the staple food, so it's not really a treat either. It's somewhere in between. I just I let that spread out. That the problem with the bug bite, it's not a problem. It's a minor weakness. It's I think it's a complete diet, but if you feed only that, it might be monolithic. There probably is something that's not in there. And so I like to cover my bases, not knowing what that something is. I don't want to do a scientific analysis, but then just feed another complete food, and then you just kind of cover all your bases. And the cobalt goldfish food, by the way, I'm feeding the cobalt premium goldfish food, prebiotics, probiotics. They're doing outstanding on that with a mix of bug bites, and then I put some other things in there for them also. I do a lot of things with the goldfish. Speaking of feeding, as kind of an enrichment. I'll do different sizes and buoyancies and so forth, just so they get a different experience. I love those guys. Jay in Aquarium with a fish room hack here. I like to blend 3 different pellets in my pepper mill and grind to size. Yes, that is a good thing to do. The Zen Ginger also likes feeding a varied diet, and she says, "Oh yeah, I use veggie flakes, Goldie granules, and Rapashi. Also, they just really love the bugs." I have not fed mine Rapashi yet, but since you've mentioned it, I'll probably whip up some Rapashi and rectify that problem. Spirulina is one of my favorites, says Aqua Balls. I also feed it every day in my fish room. Yeah, I do. I love spirulina. That's a good natural food. I think some companies now are making a spirulina, in any form that you want that is complete. They're using some additives, and spirulina is just the main ingredient. But I'll tell you, after feeding this, okay, omega. I use omega for my fry, shrimp, and baby food. Okay. Fishy Fun 57 said that. Thank you for that contribution. That extreme food is really complete. It's got a good mixture of protein and fat, and the success rate on that stuff. I mean, just doing the research was eye opening on that extreme. I mean, it's not the packaging that got me. It was the proofs in the pudding, so to speak. So I find myself walking to every tank with that food in my hand. Every tank gets a little bit of that extreme. Okay, and then Jane Aquarium says a little Northfin krill doesn't hurt either. So the number one ingredient in the extreme food is the krill. So krill does things for your. It's got lots of nutrients. The fish like the taste. It gives it a pleasant aroma, according to the fish, and it helps out with the coloration a little bit. The krill and the shrimp are somewhat rich in beta carotenes that will help the fish color up. Well, shrimp. Someone, the Zen Ginger says, hiya, Jesse. So, hello, Jesse. Welcome aboard. Hi, George. Hello to you, George. Jessica Taylor says, I feed mine mostly the aquarium co-op fry food. Okay. That's, again, proof in the pudding. The mix is there. And one of the extremes, can't remember which one off the top of my head, and bug bites. Well, as far as I'm concerned, Jessica Taylor, that feeding routine nails it. That checks all the boxes. That's a wrap. Way to go, Jessica Taylor. John Larson says, it's better to mix up the food brands since each one has different ingredients. I agree with that. Although some companies say it's not necessary, it's not natural, and you don't have to do it. And I'm like, well, I don't think it harms anything, and definitely, at least for the goldfish, it's a different feeding experience. It's a life enrichment, so I'm going to go ahead and use a varied diet. Plus, I'm a human, I'm a victim of marketing. You got a whiz-bang new product. I want to try it for my fish because it's an enrichment for me. I get excited watching the fish eat the food. That's just the way it is. And Dragonlar, we're coming down to the end here. We're going to wrap up with 32 watching, 39 likes. Wow, thanks, guys. It is 12:32. We started about 1 minute late, so we've made up for that and then some. But I want to read Dragonlar's comment. He uses extreme krill flakes, perfect, and bug bites, excellent, and a bit of frozen brine, bloodworms, and mysis shrimp on a regular basis. I do use frozen food. I've got it in the freezer. It's a little pricey. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt to maintain and to feed, but worth it. That's another one I wouldn't do exclusively, but it is fantastic to make your fish happy, to get that protein load in your fish, especially if they're breeding. And also, it's good variability. Okay, some of that stuff looks alive when it starts to thaw out and spread back out into whatever it used to be. It's almost like a live food, so it for better or worse, depending on what experience you want, it makes the fish feed a little more aggressively. They color up in excitement from the food, not from the effect of eating the food, but it seems like it's a live food, so they seem to get a little spark when you do the frozen food. So that's another benefit of including that in your routine. Again, not part of the video top 5 guppy foods. So the top 5 guppy foods I'm going to talk about in conclusion are my favorite guppy foods. Not that you should not do something else. You do what you do. But one of the reasons that make these 5 my favorite 5 is the accessibility, the feedability, and the likability by the fish. And for that reason, I didn't include a frozen food, and I don't include a frozen food in my routine guppy feeding. That doesn't go for the other tanks. I've got frozen food. I use it. Well, you remember the first aquascape tank we did a couple of months ago after Aquatic Experience, and I got the Scarlet Batis from Flip Aquatics. That was a cool video. That was a nice video build on that aquarium. That was the Shrimp King complete tank. Beautiful tank from Dinnerla. German tank. And then more recently, we've set up the Oliver Knott Aquascape tank, which is, he's the German aquascaper that designed the kit and the light. Not technically, but he was the consultant on putting that together, and it was actually a Taiwan company that built the tank, put the kit together. The light is an a German award-winning product. My kit came with a hang-on-the-back filter. I'm looking at it right now. We did a wonderful series on that. I went to a rock garden here at Mountain Home, Tennessee, got some inspiration, came home, recreated the rock garden as the aquascape. Doing well. Flip Aquatics sent some chili raspberries that are just doing excellent over there. They look like a fish cloud floating above a rock garden, just what I was going for. It brings a lot of happiness to the studio, and also to my life. Fishy Biz in the house. What's going on, Drew? Drew, are you yelling at me this morning? Mandy, Pandy, Randy, baby. I see you're using all capital letters. I'm wondering if you're yelling at me, Fishy Biz. Tapping on the glass of the community tank. Lumpy Dog, you nailed it. No worries, Drew. No worries. Tune in to River Life, says Lumpy Dog, for feedability ratings. Get your ratings. Step right up. I'll give everybody a rating. All right, we're going to do that Wednesday. Drew, I hope you'll come over Wednesday morning, Eastern time, 11:30, and we're going to unveil the top 5 guppy foods. Several teasers here. I gave you a couple that aren't going to be there. I gave you one that is going to be there. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about why. There'll be a takeaway, whether it's something you want to incorporate in your fish feeding routine or not. There'll be some takeaways. I've definitely learned, of course, every time I put together a video, I learned something. But I want you to know, the thing I want you to take away from this video is not, it's not primarily education. It's there, but it's the entertainment, the enjoyment of the fish. I want to capture the fish being excited about being fed and doing fishy things, and put it in a video for you to watch and enjoy. That's where we're headed. So I hope you'll do that. I hope you'll tune in and do that. Thanks all 35 of you still watching. And it's 12:37. We got to get out of here and get some things done in the fish room. 41 likes. You guys are awesome. Thanks very much. I love you guys. I appreciate your support. And I also really love seeing you interact with each other in the chat. Please remember Q Aquatics and Exotics will be doing the time slot takeover Thursday night, 10:30. And you're going to enjoy that. I'm promising you in advance that you're going to enjoy that. She's a beautiful person. She'd love for you to show up and help her out. I've got to go. The voice is already gone. I'm going to follow the voice right out of here. Until the next time, why don't you guys get out there and see it, love it, and live it.